Hi campers, this is Darren with My RV Works. Today we're just outside of Belfair, Washington, right on the Hood Canal. There's this little road that kind of rides along the Hood Canal. It's beautiful with all these little beach houses and cabins and things like that. But we found this beautiful Integra RV here that's having some problems with his AquaHot. And what he's experiencing with this AquaHot is he'll put it on furnace and the AquaHot's running. There's nothing wrong with the AquaHot, but he's not getting heat in his zones within his coach. So we're going to have to figure out why that is. In other words, he's getting hot water for his showers, but he's not getting hot air. The heat exchanger part of it's not working. So what that tells me is there's nothing wrong with the burner, there's nothing wrong with the boiler part of the AquaHot. That we're going to be looking at maybe some zone circulation pumps or things like that. Now, have no fear, I'm certified AquaHot, so I'll take you on this journey. We'll talk about some things with the AquaHot, and if I come across something that I think might help you, I'll be sure and mention it. So the first thing we're going to be doing is taking this cover off, and it uses 10mm screws. I have not taken the cover off yet, so I'll be taking the cover off. And back behind me here, there's also an indicator panel, and we'll be looking at the status lights on that. I notice that they're red when we turn the pump on. That indicates to me that there's something wrong with the zone pumps when they're red. Usually when the pumps are running, they're green, but they're red, so we're not getting the correct amp load going to those pumps. So we'll be looking at some of these things. So follow with me on this journey, and we'll see what's going on with the heating pumps. They're not 10mm bolts, these are 11. The 10mm is what you use to take off the burner head. So yeah, I had my wrench all set up for 10mm, and I realized I just lied to you when I told you that they're 10. So 3 bolts, 2 in each corner, no big deal. When we take this off, you're probably going to see like a disconnect switch. I'll point that out when we get to it. So now that I've got the bolts out, we're going to take this off. Now on the back, there it is. Okay, good. So you see here's schematics. Now if you really study these, they might be overwhelming it sideways to you, but I just want to let you know that they're there. When I'm in the field, I don't carry my manuals with me if I don't have to, but a lot of what I need to know is right here. Okay, just take your time to follow the circuits and it'll all make sense. Down here is the door switch, if you will. So if you're troubleshooting this and you find that it's not working, you need to close that. I found tape doesn't work, so I've got like one of these little you use them in woodworking, a little spring-loaded deal. Sometimes I just put it on there to hold that closed. Up here in the top, you can't really see in here, but up in this area, yeah, you really can't see. These would be your high-limit thermostats. This would be a zone pump. There's 2 zones in this one, so this is a zone pump. And by the way, this is a 450D AquaHot. This is a control module. Okay. If you're going to be doing troubleshooting on these, you could tell a lot from the 2 plugs. There's a B plug and a C plug on the bottom. If someone calls me out to an AquaHot and it's not working, I'm going to basically be taking this off and doing all my troubleshooting on the control signals coming to this, but I'm going to show that in another video. If you need to take the burner head off, it's 2 10mm screws. There's one up on top here and one down on this, just 2 screws, kind of like right in that position. Get a long extension, 10mm. Do not over torque those when you put that on. I've busted the head on one of these before, and if you do that, you'll learn all about how to rebuild one, and the whole thing's built off of this piece you broke, so you have to rebuild this whole piece. Some of you might have a time clock on yours, and that's where this would get plugged in. I've done an annual service on this one previously, and I like using the sticker tape to point the arrows, the gas flow in and out. So that's really all I want to touch about on these AquaHots. Like I said, when I come across one and I'm doing an annual service, I'll go over more. What we're going to be focusing on is these zone pumps right here. Now, everything's off right now, but you've got the heating zone status lights over here, and when the pumps are running, they're green indicating that they're running, but these are red, and so actually these pumps are on this side that are red. The fact that they're red tells us that the pumps are pulling too many amps. So and it's trying to, the board up top is trying to communicate to you like, hey, there's something wrong with me. So it's doing it on both of these pumps. So what I've done is I've stripped one back. I've jumped it onto this. Let me find the other end of this. And I've got a 12-volt power pack from my 12-volt drill. And so we're going to basically plug this in. Let's see here. Plus is that side, so plug that in right there. Plug this in right here. Okay, so I've confirmed that it's not running, and these wires are getting, wow, they're getting really hot. So the motor has basically seized, and so we will be replacing these motors. Now that's the good news. We've identified the problem and we've troubleshot. We know what to do. The bad news is this particular pump is obsolete, and so in order to change it out, you need to replace all these hoses. Okay, and in order to replace the hoses, you have to drain all the antifreeze, the boiler antifreeze, out of the system in order to get to this lower pump down here, this lower fitting down here, and once you're done, you put it all back in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I do that. What AquaHot has done is they've come up with a new pump solution, but like I was saying, you need to put in new hoses here to make that pump fit. So you'll get a kit. I don't know if you can figure out the part number on there, but if you get stuck, just shoot me a text message or comment, and I'll help you with finding parts. So you got a bag here. I've done enough of these. We'll be following through there. And now, in order to get the fluid out, let me back up a little bit. I've taken a 55-gallon drum, plastic kind, and I've cut it out. And so I'm going to take, there's a drain hose. I'm going to take that drain hose and fill it into here, and this will save all of my boiler antifreeze, and I can put that right back in. What I'm doing now is I'm draining the boiler antifreeze from the system. Okay, AquaHot provides this drain hose for you, and I've just put a simple that's a half-inch pipe thread right there with a little shark bite looking deal, and I just took some PEX, and so now I'm filling up my container, if you will. Lost for words here, and we're working in the dark, as you can see. There's the hood canal in the dark. So we'll just do this until it fills this, and we're going to be saving this, and when we're done with the job, we're going to be using a pump, and I'll show you that, and we're going to be pumping this right back into the system through this exact same hose. Where we are at this stage is I have drained all of the boiler antifreeze out of the system. You'll see here, I don't know if I can get a good angle, I've got hemostats, there we are, pinching the lines going from the coach. Some still got through, but what they gave me was this hard PEX line, so I can't crimp it, and then it goes into the softer. So I found a soft spot that I can squeeze, and in the hopes that these lines here that go into the coach, these are your heating loops. It's for zone 1 heating and zone 2 heating, or 1 and 2. But anyway, the 2 zones go to the coach. So squeeze these to slide them back, and then as you see, I've got the 2 top portions loose for these pumps right here. And now I will work on these 2 grips and pull this whole thing out. And you may have seen I've moved the controller out of the way, and I've even, I'll show you this, I've taken the plus wire off here. That way this thing's dead in the water. It's not going to try to start for any reason at all. So next I'll take these 2 clips off and pull these whole pumps out, and then we'll take you on the journey to repair. Where we're at now, I've got, as you see, there was 2 pumps here, they're gone. I've cleaned up a little bit. AquaHot does, I don't want to speak for them, but these zone pumps that we took out, these, I've replaced several, so from my perspective, these pumps are bad. And you can't even buy these pumps anymore. So they have the new pumps that you have. So because I've changed several myself and the old ones are not available, kind of gives you an idea that something's up with this. So we knew that there was an issue with the zone pumps. I had tested both zone pumps, what you might call a bench test, where you cut the wires, here, you cut the wires and you just give it 12 volts. It's a 12-volt motor. It says it right here, volts, 12 volts. So I knew that the pump was not running. Why? Because I put 12 volts on it and it didn't work. Also, the wires were getting very, very, very hot. So that tells me that there's an issue inside of this thing. He's scrapped. So now what we have is 2 new replacement motors. to put the new motors in. It would have been great if we could have just put the same motor in part to part. We would have been done in 5 minutes, but we have to go this other route. Different size hoses, different pump. It attaches differently. We're going to have to drill some holes here, cut some hoses to make them all fit. That's all in the kit. So there was no reason to troubleshoot the AquaHot. Our problem led to the pump. And how we knew that is because showers are fine, AquaHot starts and stops fine. There's no problem with AquaHot, none at all. It was the pumps. So at this point, we are going to, there's a plate that goes on here. We're going to be drilling a hole on top, mounting loosely the pump here to get a position, doing some measuring for our hoses, and then we're going to connect it all back up together again. But I just wanted to be clear that if it's not working, let's troubleshoot the problem, zone pumps. There's no heat in the coach, and not the bigger picture, oh, there's something wrong with my AquaHot. Well, if you have hot water, there's nothing wrong with your AquaHot. So as you see, I've got one in, and here's the plate that you mount with the rivets. This bracket slides in. You cut these to length. Notice one side's got the bell end, and you clamp it, and then the other one goes up to here. So very simple, very straightforward. Here's a pigtail. We haven't connected it yet. When we put the antifreeze back inside the system, we're gonna, I'll call it hot wire these. We're gonna give these a steady 12 volts to run, and we're gonna be pumping the fluid back into here. I'll show you that here when we get to that stage. And up on top here we have a bleeder valve. We're gonna remove that, let some air out of the line, and we're gonna kind of hot wire these to make them run constantly to make sure we get all the air out of the line. And we know we've got all the air out of the line when that stops burping and hissing at us. Okay, here's like a little tradecraft, if you will. If I'm going to put this rubber hose on that rubber, it's going to be really, really hard. Well, right over here, I've got my bucket of antifreeze. Okay, so I'm going to lubricate that. I'm going to get that kind of wet with some of that boiler antifreeze, and you're going to notice that it's just going to slide on a lot easier. So just a quick little trick for you. We now have 2 new pumps with all their hoses in. Now, I'll mention something that I checked. If you look here, let me get everybody in together here. There we go. These plates are offset. This was the rivets right here. And so you can place the plates with the, I'll call this the tail end on this side or this side. I've tried both ways. When the tail end is inboard, then what I found was the length of hose here is not long enough. I mean, it's like right here. It doesn't give you any room to work with these clamps. So that's why I opted to put the tail end outboard to give me some room for these hoses to work with the hoses right here. Okay, so you have to use PEX line here because the pump is going to self-siphon. It's going to self-prime himself, and if you don't use PEX line, what'll happen is it'll crush itself. So PEX line to here, the pump will siphon it, and then it'll go right inside of the AquaHot system. Now up on top, let me zoom in there. You'll see that right there. That is the little, it's like a bicycle Schrader valve. You don't take that off, but you do loosen that, and I've lined that with some towels because we're going to be pumping this in, and we do not want to have any air in the line when we're done with it. So we're going to open up our valve. You see we've got our PEX line there and our pump. So let me go ahead and connect this to here. Okay, and now that we're running, we'll see that go down. I can see it. I don't know if it's coming out in the camera, but so also this, yeah, this hose is warm. So I'm going to monitor this. I'm going to babysit it, make sure that my hose here stays in the jug and that everything is going to flow, and I'm going to be looking for my bleeder valve up on top there. At this point, we've got these 2 pumps hot wired. We're going to press down the inside of it to bleed it out a little bit. There we go. So we want to keep doing this. You can see it burping out a little bit. I'll get you a little closer and focus on that. So I'm trying to get all the air out. So I've got it pressed in. I hear the air hissing if you listen. I wanted to get you closer to this. I wanted you to see the air coming out. I set the camera down, but there it goes. So we're getting all the air out of this thing. And so that's what we're doing. I got my screwdriver pressed inside. We're flowing just a little bit. And then all of a sudden we'll get an air pocket and you'll see it gurgling out a little bit. But you saw that. So we're going to do this until we get all the air out. So with both of these pumps running, and we're running them because we're hot wired them off of a jump box, okay, any 12 volt power source. You got a 12 volt power source between these two wires here, so you can kind of jumper those over to here if you need 12 volts. I got a jump box. So we're just hot wired these. This guy has been quiet. We've got all the bubbles out. I've been doing this for a couple minutes now, and he's quiet now. And I've had my screwdriver pressed into the top of that, and it just stopped bubbling. So I'm pretty comfortable at this point that we got the air out of the line. So we'll connect this back to the original wiring, these wires right here, and we will reconnect the power line right up there. I've taken the plus off of this control board because we didn't want any activity with this. So by taking the positive lead off of this circuit here, even if the switch was turned on inside inadvertently or whatever position the switch is in, the switch comes in, let's see, on these wires right here, okay? So we get power from the board, we go to the switch, we come back from the switch, and we tell this to start. So if the board's dead, well, it doesn't matter what position the switch is in. So I like the idea of just turning it off that way. So we are going to connect everything and do a test fire and see what happens. A question might be, I've got a black and a red here, and I've got these wires 3, 4, 5, and 6. Darren, how do I know which one's plus and which one's minus? Well, that's kind of easy. So look here, I've got a number 3. Let me focus on that, if it would. Okay, I've got a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6. So brown, green, purple, and white. Well, we file these up here. And let me show you up here. Up here we got a 3, 4, 5, and 6. So 1, 2, here's 3. So 3 is the fourth one up. So that's going to be pump 2 plus. So 3 is a plus, 4 is green, 4 is pump 2 minus. Okay? 5 is going to be purple. Purple is going to be a plus. And then I've got a white, and that's a minus. Make sense? So now we know our color codes and what goes on plus and minus. Down here we're going to make red plus and black minus. And we now know our colors, so we can make sure we have the correct polarity on these wires. Okay? Okay, we've just started the AquaHot. We're going to do a final test, or our first test after the operation. We're going to let the AquaHot get up to temperature, and then we're going to turn inside, we're going to turn our furnace on. So the AquaHot just kicked on. We're going to turn our furnace on and see if we can get zone 1 and zone 2 here to run these pumps and get some, I don't know my tool bag, it's right at the exhaust. There we go. Get some heat in the coach. Okay, we'll know we've succeeded when these pipes get hot. Okay, these are the pipes that are feeding those zones, and we will feel for temperature here. And because that feeds right into zone 1 and zone 2 here, and that's how we'll know we've succeeded. And then we'll ultimately know we've succeeded when it gets warm on the inside. Those little cozy heaters that they have on there are putting out some heat. So stand by. We're going to let this thing warm up a little bit, and the furnace isn't going to turn on these pumps. The AquaHot will not allow these pumps to turn on until it's reached temperature. It does not want cold air blowing inside of your coach. So this pump down over here is called the stir pump or summer pump, and he is just going to circulate the fluid inside the tank, if you will. And there's a thermostat here, and when he's satisfied, because we've got our temperature up to about 180 degrees inside, that's when the thermostat will turn these on. Okay? Now, if we can look at these lights, we'll see that, it's focusing on my finger, but let's look at those. Okay, so pump 3 is on. Pump 3 is our summer stir pump. None of the zones are on right now. The reason they're not on is because we haven't reached temperature yet. So let me show you with the FLIR meter what we're looking at here. So let me bring this up a little closer. Okay, so if we look right, hold on, let me zoom you in there, looking at the right thing. So in there, we've got about 150, 160, 170 degrees. Target's 180. And then we'll come over here. I'm aiming at my, you see my little red dot, I'm aiming at the hoses. So we'll know that heat's going through them. We see that down in there, there's some hotness, if you will, 100 and whatever. But so we're waiting for, and I'm going to go in and look at the thermostat a little bit. but right in that area here, it's about 200 degrees right now. So I expect this to start working any minute. Okay, we know we have succeeded. We know we've succeeded because here we can see, if I can get that to focus, our lines that we just installed are showing that they are hot. Let's see, if I can pass through. Sometimes with this meter you kind of do a pan. So watch the number 107, 108, and then this guy 114. Okay, so I just let that little red line kind of pan over. So yay, we're working. So, and we've been inside the coach and we verified that the coach has heat coming out. And I've also got my meter clamped around one of the wires on one of the motors, and we're reading right at 1 amp DC. So we know that the motor's working, and that's a wonderful thing. So yay, we've got a success. And so we troubleshot it correctly with the motors. We had to go through the whole operation to change them out. And we've tested it, it's successful, so now we're going to button this up. Also look up at our status lights. Let me turn this light off up above us here. And so see our two little lights. I'm looking at the ones on the right, these two right here. So it tells me pump 1 and pump 2 are running. Whereas before it was just pump 3, which is our stir summer pump. And that he's just circulating the water inside the tank. He is now off, and now we have these two. So you're only going to either have these or this. You're never going to have this one if these are on, okay? So there you go. Now, we're at the end of the journey. If this was valuable to you, if it helped you in any way, if you want to leave a comment, I like comments, I'll respond to them. But you can subscribe, like this, subscribe to our channel, thumb it up, share it with some friends, and yeah, help more people be happy campers. Because you know what happy campers say? Happy campers say, my RV works. So from Belfair, Washington, in a drizzly, cold night, this is Darren signing off until next time. See ya down the trail.